Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the 62nd session of Majlis Al Khonji. First, I would like to welcome His Excellency Dr. Saeed Al-Sakhri, the Minister of Economy, participating with us today. Thank you very much. Please allow me to introduce our guest as well for this session, Dr. Ines Pires, an economist and international strategist. She is the General Manager of the International Development of the Chinese Tycoon Shoukworld, based on the Sultanate of Oman, and currently manages the group interest in the country. Dr. Ines has supported the Sultanate of Oman in many areas for both public sector, private sector, and European Union matters. She is a holder of the Medal of State Council of the Sultanate of Oman and President of the Innovation in Diplomacy Network in Brussels. She is the former head of cabinet of the Vice President of the European Parliament and still serves as an advisor of different stakeholders globally. Today, she will talk at Majlis Al Khonji about the private trade with the European Union, focusing on learning how Oman and private sector can benefit from the current Portuguese presidency of the European Union. Welcome, Dr. Ines, to Majlis Al Khonji, and I would like to welcome our session moderator, Mr. Abdul Wahab Al Balushi, the director on the board of Zahara Travel and Tourism and one of the leading tourism companies in Oman. Thank you, Mr. Abdul Wahab, and over to you and Dr. Ines. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reham, and good morning, all. Special welcome to all the new participants, especially His Excellency, Dr. Saeed. It's a pleasure and an honor to moderate session in Majlis Al Khonji, as is always. And especially today with Dr. Ines, a friend whom I have known for some time. And she is also a well-known person when it comes to Oman and the economy, because she has a special interest in this area. If it's all right with Dr. Ines, I would like her to start how, I know she's in love with Oman, as I always hear from her. I want to hear from her how she fell in love with Oman before she starts the session. To you, Dr. Ines, please.
Thank you so much, Excellency. It's an honor to have you here. So my favorite subject is always economics in the world and Oman. So I'm the lucky one, I have to say, to be next to you. I believe so this Saturday morning. Thank you so much, Abdul Wahab, my friend, personal friend as well, for this warm introduction. Yes, I was in love with Oman when I was 11 years old. I'm now 44, so please, you can do the calculation. I don't know, I'm half Portuguese, half Belgium. So in some aspects, every Portuguese that knows about history, economical history around the world, they have to know Oman. And actually, I was lucky to be a daughter of a former governor of the Central Bank of Portugal for inspection and corruption. When Portugal was big, when we had Africa, Angola, Mozambique, and so on. So my father was in charge of a lot of anti-corruption matters and supervision of banks and private banks, commercial banks, etc. So I was quite lucky to start understanding when I was very young, with these 11 years old, which are the countries that Portugal had relationship with. As well, we were charged a bit with Chinese areas in Macau because of the past. So it's a bit the framework. So I started to read. I started to read about the sailors in Oman. And I discovered the best it was to run away from my own father when I was a little bit older, and actually to come from an adventure from Dubai to Salalah by car alone. So, of course, as a daughter was not the best and the most smart thing I have done, but as a professional now, it was one of the most beautiful things I have done in my life. So I know Oman from a touristic point of view, from an explorer point of view, from a discoverer point of view. So this started, this passion, by reading when I was 11, but I started to travel to the country in 2006. So I saw Oman without roads. I saw Oman in the early stage of the development. I saw Oman as well one of my hobbies as a creative photographer. In 2012, I came back again, and I was traveling in the areas, more remote areas that I did not have a chance to meet the first time. So I was lucky and I said, this country is one of the most beautiful country in the world. I hope that one day I will go there again. So this kind of stopped until 2014, that the Diwan of Royal Court invited me for one of the offices I set up in Brussels called ISPD, to come to Oman to work for the D1 for different areas, not only of training, but consultancy. And I said, this is inshallah was God. I believe that in that moment, because it's the country that I always wanted to live in. And I was lucky. So I came to Oman in 2014. So I have as well an Omani daughter, I can call it like this. She was born here, and my son, no, he was born in Brussels. And it was a bit a personal story, how I fall in love in Oman in a private level. And I met some of you in the images here in different opportunities, in different meetings with my current employee. And as well, I sold actually ISPD for a Gulf family office that I'm still now running in the presidency in the honorary group in Brussels. So, I'm still connected to Oman, and I'm still living in Oman.
Excellent, doctor. Fantastic. I mean, happy to hear all these nice things about your experience in Oman and how you fall in love with Oman and you being here. I believe your presentation will be around approximately 20 minutes. Am I correct on that?
Yes, just a small presentation, small framework.
Excellent.
Because what I would like is to hear from you.
Excellent. Then we'll let you go ahead with the presentation, and then after that we will have Q&A session, and people can ask all the questions they have or comment. Is that okay with you?
Yes, it's perfectly fine. Thank you so much for the opportunity again.
Excellent. Please go ahead. It's all to you now.
Thank you so much. In this slide, where it's just a presentation of myself, there's a book that I wrote about Oman called Soft Diplomacy. This is a book that I believe in economical framework makes sense and made sense in the last years of Oman. It's because the way that Oman, in the perspective of the people do not know Oman, a perspective that Oman was always a soft diplomat while doing businesses, while developing the trade of the country and the international relations. So it's something interesting because Oman is not only the most powerful tycoon in their diplomatic relations, friends of everyone, we say the Switzerland of the Gulf is a common sentence here. However, there's more than that. And my suggestion since some years for Oman is actually now to capitalize in everything that Oman have done in the past 50 years. Necessary, I'm going to share with you this article I wrote in the tribute of the 50th National Day of last year, 2020, to send to you if you are interested to read about the sectoral development of Oman. So one thing is the reality of the Sultanate, another thing is the perception that the people have. We know all over the world after this COVID, everyone has a debt. Economical debt. This is the fact. Oman is one of those countries, however, is a country with these immense possibilities for development, is a country in development. However, the perception of what the country can do for a scenario of international trade is not yet known for the people that are not linked to Oman. What I mean is there's a big bunch of reality of we have partnering with China, we are partnering with Germany. Actually, we are importing for a lot of countries, especially France, but we are exporting a lot, for example, for Spain. What happened is that this is the fact, this is the reality, this is things that we can find statistically. The perception in the current so-called economical framework is always takes a bigger bunch of what the people feel if the country is a good partner for doing business or not, including this relationship that I'm here today to share about the European Union and Portugal presidency and Oman. So the perception of Oman that usually counts a lot. This is the proportion that you can see in this image. Around 75% is the perception, and the reality really does not count so much. Only counts for the ones that import or export or that have direct contact to a nation. Meaning that Oman is still unknown, and I don't like to compare for the other regional countries, but there's a perception that is very big regionally, where Oman is seen as a smaller sister or smaller brother. I would like to change that actually. So how we can do that is in a matrix that we are managing here in Oman. We have increasing cultural diverse workforce. If you say yes, but now with the new laws, what is happening in the country, the changes, maybe this is not true anymore. It depends on the type of analysis we are making. If we are making an analysis to transform the country into a diversified, economical, stable nation that can contribute not only for the growth of the country itself and the objectives of high-level diversification from the main industry, that is the oil and gas, it's true. So that means this, the partnerships can be seen as partnerships more than just pure workforce. What I say about that is the majority of expats, for example, like myself, that are in the country, that lose their jobs, they leave immediately. Or the investors that are investing in the country, from the moment that they don't see that is potential growth opportunity, they leave as well. Do I agree with that? No. I do not agree personally and professionally. Why? Because the cycles, the economical cycles of growth and constructivism of a new development economy, and I'm someone that I lived around Africa as well, you need to maintain the so-called 9-month cycle, economical cycle. So you cannot prove in 1 month that the country or the nation or the sector or the company itself we're investing in would be sustainable or not. It's not possible. The people would like to have everything in 1 day is not possible, but as well, we don't have to wait for cycles then 5 years. Sometimes it's not necessary. So we have as well now a danger because of this COVID-19 or 20 or 19 plus. We are in danger to always say the right and the wrong thing, because we always give a lot of opinions with no analysis behind it, or analysis that are a bit copy-pasting in general for what others think. For example, what Dubai is doing, or what Riyadh is doing, or what Doha is doing. So sometimes in the societies in general, we always tend, which is natural, tends to observe what the neighbors are doing. Oman has an international wealth that Oman does not even is conscious about. And I say that now as a foreigner, not as a lover of Oman, as a foreigner. Oman is not only a hub of this geostrategy, geopolitical, soft diplomat that exists for the last 50 years, but as well is a potential attractor of the external stakeholders, like you can say. We can really attract the investors, but the problem is sometimes we focus too much our energy, our resources, financial resources, and national resources and branding resources without actually focusing what we have already in the country. What I mean about is sustainability. There's a lot of efforts in attracting foreign investors, but we don't protect the ones that are already here. And I say as well, the middle investment. The middle investment are the ones that are not the tycoons, that meaning that they don't have enough investment to be done in Oman. They leave for another hub. Why? Because Oman is still in the 75th ranking of difficulties in doing business with. Now things are improving. Now things are very becoming lighter. However, for the ones that are still here, I believe that in the last part is we need to be in constant growth of the international interactions to understand how Oman is being as well talked about out there. And I don't believe that we should start just a branding campaign with no strategy all over the world about Oman. It's not the philosophy of the nation. It's not the philosophy of the tissue, the sectoral tissue that we are living here, but is a matrix that we need all together to reflect from the interests of the government, but as well the private sector, together with the foreigners or the investors that are currently in the country itself. So there was the economical model that I have shared this in Oman, maybe more than 300 times. I'm not exaggerating, maybe this is going to be the 300th one, where each organization in the private level is the center of the attention. And this is not a so-called economical autism. This is actually a sustainable economical development from the private sector to external. Why? Because we can always export if we are within the regulation, if we are already developing our international partnerships, if the country itself, and is what is happening now, is supporting us to continue export from Oman. So the investment should be attracted for only one thing. This is again, my opinion. It's all questionable, of course. My economical opinion, we should attract investors, not only to bring their money in the country, because can be maybe not sustainable. I know approximately 15 groups that left Oman, big groups, because it's like, it's not sustainable for us. It's like we are just here, so we move for other countries. So my question is, but why do we move? And there's a list of topics why they left Oman. They left because it's difficult to deal with banks, because the schedules of doing businesses, because the time zones are difficult. And in other neighboring countries, we find it something more open. However, I believe those are not the pure investors. Those are the so-called suppliers that you can see in this graphic, is the partners and suppliers, or even the competitors of Oman. Because a country or a nation that partner up with a high institution to attract investment to the nation, what we should be doing as well is actually to attract the investors that would like to export from the country. Because if you are attracting for a small country like Oman with a huge extension of land, we should attract and to reinforce the ones that are currently here into invest in export industries like agriculture, like fisheries, to realize the capacity of the export of the country. Does not mean that the country is 100% ready. No, it's not 100% ready, but we don't have to be 100% ready to be able to start exporting or to be able to start reinforcing the private sector in the country to export for all the graphic stakeholders that you can see there. So that means for one side, we have the most called internal part of the one organization. That is the shareholders, of course, the regulators, the public sector. We cannot overpass the board of directors who regulate us. From another side, we have our clients, our competitors, our partners, our own team, the laws that regulates that part that is linked as well to external part of our own organization. And then the rest comes after. But after these countries, nationalities, companies that you see in this model are the ones that can be receivable of not only our exports of Oman, but as well understanding who is Oman. That's why I always try to link economics with branding. And like I said again, branding is not, I'm a woman, so it's not to sell just the nail polish, just what is beautiful. Actually, a brand is actually to sell to others, to show to others who we are and what is our vision. And the Vision 2040 is 100% stable. We know where we are going. So how to transform the vision into actions, and the private sector has a huge role on that, and making the link for the European Union. For example, why I would like to make a European Union link? Because we are now in a moment that Oman has one opportunity that is not going to be repeated in the next 13 years, 13. And I'm seeing here in the image one of my you can say my friends, Mr. Simon Karam, actually, because we met several times. And he actually listened to one topic that I've brought here to Oman 2 years ago with Vasil Hudak, the former vice president of the European Investment Bank. I brought him to the country because we had a task to do to the country. We needed to place Oman in the white list of the taxation countries. And actually we've made it, so I'm happy, together with the country and the foreigners, and it was the pure partnership between Omanis and the Europeans. So we have done it, it's accomplished, it's done, checklist done. And it was only possible because we work in partnership and because we were aware of the opportunities. And the opportunities, like we say, is not only autistic opportunities, are the opportunities that are out there. Now we have the Portuguese presidency. I have 100% decision making as well in some of the trade agreements and for private sector and public sector there until July. So until July, I have here a list, and then I can share with you after this meeting here, a list with everything where Oman is stuck with the EU, and as well with the private agreements, bilateral agreements between states. For example, we can export very easily fish for France because of bilateral agreement. We can export fish, for example, for Germany. We can export for Spain. But there's things we cannot do because of so-called multilateral economical law that the EU runs. However, the opportunity, EU as a market, is the third friend of Oman. So as a market, so I mean, should be one of our priorities, and to take advantage, of course, of this past that Oman has with Portugal, because I said, why the Portuguese are just supporting Qataris now? Why? I cannot understand. I'm half Portuguese, so I was upset, but you have this long relationship. We should attack immediately the core of the European Union now. With the true Oman companies, with the true partnerships, philosophy is similar, is traders. For example, for you to have an idea, the Portuguese is ranking now in the 25th countries of easiness to do businesses in the world. Oman is ranking 75th, 75, I think officially now the World Bank, yes, 75. So I mean, we can really partner in a way to have a gateway to enter to the whole EU. So you have, for example, the free trade agreements that started in 1990 is still in negotiations for Oman with the EU. We are still in the sectorial level. So that means the general level for Oman is a little bit easier. And I understand the reasons, because geopolitically, Oman always played the role of the good student and the good professor in the soft diplomatic approach arena. However, now, and knowing this area that you can see from the intelligences and analysis you have here until the disputes, we are never in disputes from Oman. So we need to work very closely in the state level for the trade policies, but the bilateral one, but as well the multilateral. So the countries, companies, the private sector can be the base of the pyramids that you have there. Then we have the rest, the political management and so on. I'm not so worried about it. What I'm worried is that the base of the pyramid is being ignored sometimes, not by Oman, but by the inclusion of the sustainability approach and the know-how of the European Union as well itself with their so-called neighboring friends. That's why I wanted to engage you together, to think together. Let's take a rational opportunity together to unblock everything that is possible to unblock. I talked as well last week with the ambassador of Oman in Belgium, as well, a personal friend, His Excellency Najim Al Abri. And I said, Najim, this is the list that I've done. And he just adds some extra points and say, Ines, we need this, in a diplomatic sense of view, but as well in an economical point of view. And one point was not there, was the point of how to engage the private sector to export faster, better, with more know-how to other private sector in Europe. We don't need always the government. The government cannot be always our friend. every day, are things we have and we must, as private sector, to do naturally. We say we brought this Chinese tycoon Shoukworld. They are, in the beginning, they just came in to check. They're already here. They're already investing. They're already buying. They're already using Oman as a hub. So if it is possible for them, really not big governmental support, or not really only Omani co-investment, they can do alone, but as well under regulation. I think it's possible for everyone. And I would like really that we take advantage. Of course, that's, I'm here in the country. And I said, I don't have really, this is I do for love. And this is true. I love this country and I wanted to see it, this proactivity, this branding of Oman, that everyone would be speaking of Oman around the world. And sometimes my friends Omanis, they say, but Ines, or Inas, like they call me, you know, but our idea of countries low profile. And I tell you something, low profile brands can be the most impactful brands in the world. So why? For this reason you have here, you develop a small and creative media policy. You are, through the soft approach that Oman has to create the credibility international that you already have. Then you increase the political influence that you already have. So how you transform that to an economical model? I've said that in 2019, when actually we solved this issue of the taxation for Oman. You continue hiring your natural workforce in Oman. You maximize the tourism revenue. I know that's COVID-19, but that's why we need to be more creative to take advantage of the country now and of the world crisis to augment our revenue. I never had such a profitable year that in my life, I have to say to you, because of the COVID-19. You know why? Because the progress was done while the people were blocking their minds. Some of us, and a lot of Omanis, we just said, let's continue. Doesn't matter what. We don't look to the laterals of the COVID, of the problem, of the other problem. What can be the problems that stop us to grow? And we continue to grow. And we continue to focus on what is our want for the country, for the companies, for the private sector, and for the ones that we are working with. So we continue. We continue to attract that foreign investment, maybe more in artificial intelligence areas, the ones that we don't need to have a physical COVID-19 challenge to block us to do. We start to work in the models how to really increase the export. I have created one full. That means how if we only attract the investors to export from Oman with the new laws that are amazing in place, that we can be 100% owners, the foreigners that we can partner with Oman, know-how based from construction, from the fish, from the main sectors that Oman are, the renewable energies that we are focused on. So for example, like we say for the agriculture, let's focus in agriculture, not for self-consumption, but for exports to the EU. We need Oman. The European Union needs Oman. We should focus in the exports. And this is true diversification. Diversification of economy is only not the plan, but the plan is there. So let's actually work with our partners to prepare the country, to attract our know-how, to attract the investment, to attract the technology, to attract what already they do well together with us. And we produce locally and we export from Oman to the other regions. So from Africa, of course, so East Africa is super important, but as well for the European Union. And I believe in this, I have here exactly in numbers, you know, the UNCTAD for the World Investment Report, we know we can actually pass in 41 billion euros for the EU only alone in general. So that means, you know, what happened is that it's focused only in 3 countries, the ones that the bilateral agreements are strong. But if we work in a multilateral level, by nailing as well the bilateral trade agreements that we have by the government, with the nations themselves, that is actually a big constructivism of the Portuguese philosophy. So that means let's do all but one after the other. Until the moment that match is completely correct as well, the zero personal income still here in Oman. I mean, you can be partnering now with 5 countries extra in Oman, from Oman in EU. And the only big partners Oman currently have is really Spain and France and Germany, these 3. UK is considered now a so-called external market, so one of the big markets. So you don't need to exchange any relationship, because this is 100% bilateral. But I believe that that in economical relationships, they can be developed one by one. For example, under the Portuguese presidency, you have as well the development for the Latin-speaking countries. So that means Italy, Portugal, Spain. Then you have as well to maintain Germany and France is maintenance. So I don't believe there's nothing else to do there. But the potential, we have 28 countries. We have a real strong relationship with artificial intelligence for Latvia as well. So it's already being done. It's need now to be declined from this public level to a more private, practical, partnership-oriented Oman partnership. And this what I call about the national brand of Oman. So it means we don't need to, we are not a neighbor, you know. We don't focus only on brands. And that's why I even love Oman, is because of that. It's because of the capacity and self-awareness of the country. The cultural and the global perception of the country is very good. The people are coming here for tourism. We know that is a COVID. I repeat that. We know. We are all aware. We cannot jump. We cannot now ignore that the COVID-19 exists. Of course not. But we should not focus now in working in something that we cannot bring in the revenue that we are willing to get. Does not mean we cannot work on the plan. Okay, let's continue working in our touristic plan, but let's work very avid, very frenetically with the involvement of all private sector in the exports. Let's work on that, not only in the public image, what Oman is capable to partner with the national and international organizations, but as well in the private sector. We don't only need to be in partnership with the government. Sometimes it's important for the things that are high-level regulation, but there's really possible to augment a business network like the Majlis Al Khonji, where we are, to augment that partnership to an external point of view through a national brand of Oman, to why Oman, something that I believe we should take advantage these next 6 months. We don't have 6 months anymore, we have 4 months and a half, but I believe we can do to really, even can we then together can even calculate how this impact is being done to the country. How many nations we could partner with just for the exports in Oman. So meaning that, okay guys, if you would like to come to Oman, to invest in Oman, just to leave money here, but you need us to be, that you supply to us, we don't have this capacity now. Okay, I don't think it's a problem. We can say we need you to help us to export from here back to you. This is the sentence. There's a lot of nations, a lot of sectors within the EU, but as well in China and as well in Africa, that could actually accept the challenge to invest in Oman, to export from Oman to others. For me, this is the stake. Is the stake I wanted to leave it for today. I mean, for example, you have here in the country brands and the experienced countries in front, you see Oman. This is an Anholt model, and you can see there that Oman is near Saudi Arabia, near Taiwan, near Russia, near Poland, Estonia. Up to Oman, we still have Bahrain, like called status countries. And you have other countries that are so-called country brands. By nature, the countries that are called country brands, that they have a brand, that they have something unique about them, they are richer. They are richer. It's not because they want only. is because they created a brand for themselves, and not a brand of everything to say we are amazing, we have good food, we have good sectorial lines, we have good geopolitics. They did not create anything general. They went for specifics. So United Arab Emirates there is very high, United Kingdom, New Zealand, Austria, United States, Australia, because they went for specific. It's linked to the trust. So that means, imagine that I have, and it's true what I'm saying now, I have 10 multi-billion groups that are in the verge to come to Oman. I need to convince them to come to Oman. It's difficult sometimes, but sometimes it's not so difficult. But depends on that brand, because the things that I say are true. In the sense, I tell to the group, you have, this is the positive, this is the positive, this is the positive, this is the development of Oman, this is what is potential. However, of course, there's challenges, but the people, they don't mind. Usually the investors, they don't mind challenges if they have a reason very concretely that differentiate us, Oman, from the other ones. If you give something that is totally differentiating, believe me, everyone came from here. We cannot forget that Singapore was one of the poorest countries in Southeast Asia. And now we know how is Singapore, because there was a factor of differentiating. For me as well, I believe that Oman can just target the 3 bigger friends. If Oman targets the 3 bigger friends of Oman, including European Union, what is going to happen is that the impact is strong. Is the diversification mentality as well of our partners that would like to export from Oman. So it's a question of sentences in Arabic, in English, en français, in Portuguese, in Spanish, in Russian, is to the sentence that we would like to use in the economical development of our nation, Oman, that matches for not only the diversification vision, but we were very good at in a combination. So that we are good for tourism, it's a fact. That we are good for potential because it's a place that geopolitical stable and a place that is safe is a fact. But how can you group our characteristics in a way that brings us economical revenue fast? Believe me, for my experience as foreigner, is not only to attract, is actually to maintain. We can have a sustainability of 4% more just to maintain the ones that are here. Don't let them leave. And then we make the efforts with those examples to attract more. And for me, is to create an industry and an economical perspective to export 100%. We are going to develop Oman to export. That's it. We don't develop Oman just for bringing in the people to go to see our wads. This is going to be a so-called collateral positive spillover effect, like we say in oil and gas. This is going to be a spillover effect, for sure. And how we protect as well the country to maintain a soft diplomat. We should maintain this is amazing value. We should.
Okay, Dr. Ines, I think your 20 minutes are over, and I'm sure your passion, enthusiasm, so great.
Has no wings.
I give you a minute to. I give you a couple of minutes to conclude. Please go ahead.
Yes, so I would just like to wrap up to see that for my professional experience and how to partner up with EU, but as well to our main partners, to prepare the country and to create the brand, economical brand of Oman to export. Solely for that. The rest will come.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Excellent presentation, Dr. Ines. And if you allow now for a Q&A session, and I see His Excellency, Dr. Saeed might have a question or two. I leave the opportunity for him to ask the question if he has any. Ma'ali al-Wazir.
Thank you, Mr. Abdul Wahab. Thank you, Dr. Ines, and I do agree. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, Your Excellency. Yes,
okay, perfect. Thank you. I agree with you that things start with love. With love, everything is possible. So I definitely have something in common with you. And I also agree with you that engaging the Omani private sector with the European Union private sector is a good strategy to look into the partnership that will benefit Oman and help Oman in achieving its goals to try to diversify its sources of income. The question of augmenting, I think, partnership between the private sector, the Omani private sector and European sector, from experience, I mean, I don't want to disregard the formalities and the government role and so on, but and of course that is very important. But I think from your experience, I think it will be very beneficial for us. Besides, let's say this sort of, dialogue that, between Al Khonji Majlis and, you being present here and, promoting this relationship. What other, do you think, channels that will probably facilitate and help the private sector to be to partnership with the European private sector, Omani private sector and European private sector? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Thank you so much. Abdulhab, shall I answer immediately, or how you prefer that I collect some extra answers? Can I answer?
No, please, immediately you can answer. Please go ahead. Yes.
Yes. So, Your Excellency, there's for me a very straightforward strategy. And as you know, the economists in general, they try to expend less and have the maximum results. So I try always to be very straightforward. It's really to pick up the phone. Honestly, it's really to lose, maximum 1 month non-stop from night and day in a hard work style to create all the arguments that matches Oman private sector as a global, and already with concrete examples to the years of the other private sector. For example, if you say for one of my stakeholders of health, now we know that is needed to build more hospitals, just something concrete here in Oman. You know, that one of these Portuguese investors is more than 70 million that we already brought here for the hospitals. They came, they built, it was really simple. Say, guys, you have to come with all your funds. You come to Oman, you invest in Oman, you manage your company privately, you partner locally because you don't speak the language, because you don't know the style, you don't know the stakeholders. So you come and very easily, feasibly study. We do in 1 page, because then they have the economics locally and as well in the private, they come to do the whole groundwork and due diligence. But from us, is 1 page. So you come here because of this reason, you have this partner group and you do it. Another very simple is to create these little brands. I'm in favor of that, because there's the European Union countries, they have something that is a bit proudness, okay? So that means they don't believe what they don't see. It's a pity. I believe in God, but some more Protestant countries that I always say, like in this matter, and if they are listening to me, I don't mind, direct. Sometimes they are more practical. So they believe in the brand. That's why sometimes they believe more in UAE, because the brand is there. And I believe that we should maintain our soft diplomacy, but to create doing business friendly in Oman. For private sector, we do a small logo, something simple. Why? For example, I have already stakeholders I would like to come to Oman, for example, to modernize all agriculture from the European Union. And I said, okay, but you come to export. And the problem sometimes, and when we call them, we say, but come and see the opportunities. This is a nice country. You have to see all the stakeholders. I think we should sometimes be direct with the Europeans, or as well sometimes with the Chinese or the Africans. I would say very simple. We would like to modernize our agriculture. We would like to feed East Africa. We'd like to feed our own country. But for example, an investor that comes to Oman, for example, to develop agriculture for Oman, because I think it's a very good example, to develop the country for self-consumption, is not very interesting. We have to convince that investor hardly. Maybe only you, Your Excellency, is able to convince. But the private sector can say, okay, let's do a model, so-called a private model. And I want as well to disregard the public sector, because I don't belong to the public sector, but I have belonged all my life, half of my life. So sometimes, yes, we have to disregard the public sector, follow the rules, ask support from the government. But in this, I believe that we should not just justify our inability to make businesses because of the government. And I tell you, this is a woman, a white woman in the Sultanate of Oman, that's done all alone from scratch. So I'm not Omani, I'm not a man. I did not have friends when I came to Oman. I told you my story. And actually, I'm an investor in the country, and I'm not living. And Omanis, there's a period of the life, they said to me, we don't have budgets. And I said, okay, it doesn't matter, I'm going to find my way. And I found my way without the government. So what I believe is that we should be direct and to see what we need and what the investor as well needs to be convinced to come to Oman. And because the majority of the people that do not know Oman, they will not risk in a so-called non-friendly country of doing business with. They prefer easy. The people like easy.
Hello.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Doctor, for the answer. Your Excellency, any follow-up or any other questions?
No, I don't have any other question. I just want to tell her thank you for that insight. And I think
I am sorry.
it's definitely a good approach.
I must have muted myself here.
I have a solution. I have one for all sectors.
You are a good friend and a true lover.
It's true. I'm going to offer you my book next time we meet.
Excellent. Can you hear me? Can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
I don't
can.
know what happened to my connection, but apparently I have. Here we go. All right. Can you hear me?
I don't abandon. Don't abandon.
Okay. Well, I can't hear you. I don't know what's wrong with the system. Your Excellency, any more questions? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. No? Okay. I have Saleh Al-Shamfari. I don't know whether he can hear me too. He has a question for you, Ines.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ines. Thanks to Khalil and the rest. It was really amazing and a beautiful talk. And thank you very much. I'm from the private sector, and my latest experience, as you well aware, is that I want to share with you my experience, the recent one on this. Of course, I hope you see this in the market. And this is our latest message to Oman, to the world, the Mazoon dairy. In fact, I'm so proud to tell you that we started exporting to the world, and we have huge demands now. And yes, Oman, through export diplomacy, can reach corners. Well, thank you for that insight. So I hope you started tasting our product, Ines, and I hope you like it. But this is what Oman can offer. What I can say that the big challenge that we see from government side is that whenever they go for branding, they go alone. They do it the way bureaucrats think. And that's the major difficulties. We are the people in the ground, and I think the way we do it is totally different from the way they do it. Could you comment on that and the role of private sector to really go to the world with a brand? By the way, the word Mazoon is also another meaning for Oman, the old Oman name. So maybe to help that discussion. Thank you, Ines, for your very insightful presentation.
Mr. Salas, thank you so much. I know one of your family members as well, Dr. Adel. I had a chance to lose with him in the chess. So, I'm so proud of Mazoun, and Abdul Wahab knows that my daughter, her name is Amelia. She's a Omani, like I shared in the beginning. So Amelia to Amélie in French, and Amelia. So I believe on private branding. What actually the Germans did and Japanese did, and I don't want to have these just examples of the high success, but I think they did very well. You know what I have done? They did not request the government to brand for them. What I have requested is to say, include in your brand the brands that are already known. Like, for example, Belgium did very well as well. For the best chocolates in the world are Belgians. So the best cars in the world, the technology are Japanese or Germans. So what they have done, the government, is to use the private sector or abuse, and this I believe they should abuse the private sector, the government, to just talk about the case studies more than actually just use about the geopolitics, the geography of Oman, that is very beautiful, very safe. This I think everyone knows. And I don't believe that are strong arguments, because there are other countries in the world that have those arguments as well. But those arguments linked to the case studies to say, for example, imagine you put me, a foreigner, I drink Mazoun and I give Mazoun to my daughter. Strong brand. I know already 3 markets. I say in Spanish, I say in Portuguese, I say in French, I say in German, I say in whatever language I could say, just can say in 8, but I would say, we have, that's Mazoun drink. So this is a way, I believe this is quite simple actually to do. It's a small strategy for the government to launch publicly, to say, Mazoun, it's Oman. For example, to say, this is Oman, this is Oman, this is Oman, this is Oman. If the government links the general national branding of the country to the specific brand making that is through Oman, of the famous people in history that are Oman, the much friends that are Oman, if you link, because this is even a cheap strategy, I'm sorry to say like that, because actually the investors is going to be the private sector themselves.
All right, thank you, Dr. Saleh, any follow-up, or is that enough, Saleh?
No. I do agree fully with her, because I believe you cannot separate the two private sector and public sector, and then start doing marketing separately for each and everyone. So, for example, this is what we did. We said, okay, this is an Omani branded meat. The first branded meat in the Middle East is Bushra, coming from the south of Oman. Mm-hmm. So to do that, the government and the private sector should work together to brand Oman. This is you can see we have used the Omani logo there. Yes. It's all over everywhere to say Oman, 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 and they should also say local, branded, produced, fresh, pristine, local, halal, or organic. That's what we should do together. And there's a huge opportunity. In fact, we've just launched Bushra last 2 weeks. Now we have huge demand from outside the Oman, GCC, and other countries. Why? We did, the best branding consultants of the world are here. They're working with us in both Mazoun and Bushra. We're not doing it with mediocres or with startups. We are doing it with a professional media consultants from best of the world. We have to do it that way only. Thank you.
Thank you, Saleh, Bashmuhandis. I have Mr. Amr Suleimani. He has a question. If you may, please, Amr.
شكرا ما عندي سؤال أصلا ما أعرف.
Okay, I thought you had a question. I must have got you wrong here.
Comfortably.
Okay, all right.
Great presentation in all cases. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Simon Karam, you had a question. I believe you're in the queue.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Ines. Ines is the way, we have the name in Arabic, Ines.
Yes, I know.
So it's natural. You see, for example, my friend Ramesh Khonji, it's an Indian name, but he's Omani. So I call him Ramesh. Ramesh sounds Arabic, you see. Ines is an Arabic name.
Yes.
Good. Now, you know, what I'm taking out of this talk is many things. Example, you know, you stress on looking to the external, you know, augmentation of external stakeholders, constant growth of international relationship. That we have to keep in our mind. The novelty, something very new, you know, and thank you for that, is to protect the present investors and not kick them out like we did with Amazon. And Amazon was new, you know, the present one, the ones we have, I think we should go and visit them and say, what problem do you have? And how can we, as you proposed, invest more in products that we can export? That's new to me, you know, a new idea. Then you touched on something brilliant, which is the soft diplomacy, the good boy in the international arena, you know, the good students. Okay, that's excellent. But how are we using that to materialize it in some of economic relationship? It's a big question being discussed even in Majlis Al Khonji several times with His Excellency Minister of Foreign Affairs you know, attracting investor for export from Oman, the idea, and not attracting investor full stop, but to export from Oman. You mentioned renewable energy, agriculture, it's a bit difficult. I'm thinking of flowers in particular. And oil and gas, we are experts in oil and gas, you see. You see, if I take an example, there's a huge operator, upstream operator who works in Oman, who's been with us for years and years. And their regional office is not in Oman, and yet the drilling activity in Oman represents for them 35% of their worldwide activity. And you spoke about developing, you know, a creative media policy. I'm sorry, I have to repeat myself. I give always this example. A Lebanese guy came to visit us at Isra, and he said, some countries have that much. Look at my hands, that much. And they advertise that much. You, Oman, you have that much, and you advertise this much. And I like the way you said, we don't have to be advertising on everything, but, you know, on the areas where we're strong, you know, our fish, our dairy products, which are coming to become international. However, and I'll end up there, when one thinks about all this, there are two observations. First, a wish, a will. And here I really honestly thank His Excellency Dr. Saeed to be with us. Your address is an invitation to various government authorities to be present with us and think from their angle as well, not only the Ministry of Economy, but the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the industry, you know, the foreign investment, all this. Now, however, you know, and I'll end there, we have to reconcile within ourselves before we embark on anything, particularly on the 4 sections that you said. You said, keep hiring workforce, keep thinking tourism, increase export, and attract foreign investment. If we look in detail into every one of them, in every one of them, we have not reconciled within ourselves. Is our relationship with expatriates correct? Or with the foreign investor? Are we benefiting from tourism the way we should be? Are we thinking of increasing export? And are we attracting foreign investment? You know, do we want foreign investment? I know that many people in Oman do not want. Several people do not want tourism. We have to reconcile within ourselves what we want to do with our country, and we cannot leave it to the hazard. And thank you so much. It was nice seeing you, even virtually. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Very enlightening words and comments. I'll leave it to Dr. Ines if you would like to say anything to the comments raised by Mr. Simon.
Merci, Monsieur Simon. It's my pleasure. it's really, I agree with you 100%. For me, it's really simple. To protect is to hear, to listen to others, to listen the ones that are here, and actually to start inviting as well for this Majlis or for other initiatives as well, the foreigners that are already investors here, to pass soft diplomacy to corporate diplomacy is just one small step. So as the soft diplomacy was already done, but a step for corporate diplomacy, that means, okay, let's use those friends and to be, like you said, stable to ourselves in Oman, and to say we are ready to invite those friends as well to be our economical partners. This is a step, but has to be a decisive step or a decision, internal decision for sure. And to attract investors to export, it's simple. We have to understand what is the path of wealth or of maintenance. So if we are not satisfied with the current status, we have sometimes to do things we don't like brush our teeth every night. We prefer just to eat the chocolate, of course. But sometimes we have to do in the world, you know, and as half Belgian, half Portuguese, I tell you, if the Belgians do not accept that, would be just a small country in Europe, and now is a big partner as well in bilateral point of view. So if you want to be small and beauty, it's okay as well. It's a strategic decision. However, if we want to grow, and if you feel that we need to be more confident because of the ones around us, I would go for one good one, one stability, but at the same time not to expose what we are not ready for. This I agree 300%. And to develop the creative media in one or two areas, I think would be benefit Oman, but as well Oman internally, not only Oman externally. I believe that to develop a love for Oman, for the ones that are here, to protect the ones that are here, and as well the ones that will come after, I think would have always a positive impact. Who is Oman? Where is this located? You know, this is a word that I gained. It was not because of nothing special, actually. It was just something for free I organized inside of the European Parliament. I've done a whole exhibition for 28 countries about Oman, and said, this is Oman, was the name of the exhibition. And the people, wow, this is amazing, this is wonderful, we want to go. And sometimes if we expose, there are people that simply, we don't have to brand anything anymore. They just want it. And I agree with Simon for sure. People, they just want. We have to make a choice of the path.
Thank you, Doctor. I have Dr. Mohammed Al-Razegi. And can you please, Dr. Mohammed, put your question through or comment?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Ines, for the valuable and important lecture that we heard today. As you said also in your lecture, the relationship between Oman and the EU and the world is very ancient and historical. This is by nature, of course, and which also contributes to tourism, as you said in the lecture, and probably the businesses. What we know from the different sectors, especially with the industries, that the economy and the legal, let's say, stringencies are linked, or maybe they are cross-linked. And of course, that's why you see many countries, they face, especially from the developing world, they face many technical difficulties in accessing the EU single market, the 28 EU markets. For example, we in Oman, before Oman was exporting fisheries to the EU, but the export value and the quantity dropped from 10%, I think, to around less than 1%. And that was in the last decade. This because of many technical issues, including some technicality with the stringencies. I think the safety, especially from the food veterinary offices in the EU and their route to inspect products in their destinations, let's say in the local markets, of different countries, including Oman, it has some the part into such cooperation between different countries and the EU. So from my opinion, I think the European cooperation in terms of technology and the investment, like direct investment in Oman, may serve all parties due to, of course, to the nature of Oman and the location of Oman. So my question to you, Dr. Ines, what's your evaluation, probably your assessment of direct EU investment in Oman as of now, or probably prior to the COVID-19? And also, are there any confrontation, let's say, as you mentioned, in clean energy, in probably industries, some tourism of these industries? Of course, Engineer Saleh, he gave us a good picture of their wonderful experience of Mazoon and Bushra. And of course, I'm sure they are going ahead with their expansions as brands of Oman. So there are many newly brands are coming in the market. So what's your evaluation of such cooperation in the near future? Thank you for your nice presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Dr. Ines, you're too.
Thank you so much. This is an excellent comment because it's the reason I'm here. I wanted to ask you, for the country and for everyone here, a favor. The favor is, I have decision making now in the EU until July. That's it. Me, this person. There's two big problems in the fisheries, actually. For example, we cannot export Oman, just an example to underline what was said, to China, because COVID-19 came and auditors from Chinese inspection, because it's missing one inspection of a certificate of quality from China. There's just needed one visit from China to Oman, one missing. I was actually working in that folder of the fisheries, was everything done for China, but one missing, and unfortunately did not come before the COVID, and now was not proven that the COVID does not enter in frozen fish. So the Chinese only want to come to Oman maybe mid this year. So it was a window of opportunity that for now we lost, and we lost a lot of big margins. You know why? Because you have to export via Vietnam, meaning that it's already another country that benefits instead of being direct export to China. You can export, but via others, never direct. Russia, same case. EU, as you said, is a global problem. The compliance within the European Union, because of the certificates as well, was not done. So what I wanted to ask you, and renewable energies, etc., is to take advantage that now, for ones that do not have a lot of insightful what means European Union presidency. It means that every 6 months, among the 28, there's one country that is the president. That means that takes decision making. Sometimes Belgium, sometimes now it was a combination called trio that came as well from Germany. So now is Portugal, and as I told you, because I'm half Portuguese and I have the main office in Brussels, and we are dealing with this meta 100% for the European Union. And I'm not living in Qatar, I'm not living in any other country, I'm in Oman, so I'm not in another place. When meaning is that if we want to take advantage with exactly what Dr. Mohammed now just said, this is the moment. I can do something until July. After July, I cannot promise anything anymore because I know who's there. So what I mean is that if we want to create, as you said, overpassing the problem that we have currently, that is the cooperation agreements that we stopped in 2008. We started to sign a cooperation agreement in 1988 with the UGCC, where included Oman, that now is 100% closed because it was not yet negotiated to what that represents by sectors. I was always a bit critical of that because I don't believe in general trade, because general trade just does not focus again in what is possible. So I believe that what should be possible is that we actually do the right compliance now. We say, okay, let's start with 2 areas which I know by a fact here in my paper that is stuck for the trade flows. because actually the European Union can become the #1 of Oman export. So let's start with the fish. Let's close this problem once and for all and upscale it. We know that we don't have the quantity because Oman does not have a modernized fishery industry yet. But but if you start to actually allocate all fish out of Oman for the export, and if we decide to do that, then it's very easy then to answer as well what Mr. Karan said before, to actually invite the investors to modernize the fisheries that to export to EU. Everything then is linked. Let's, for example, go to a specific area, fisheries, to renewable energy, the same. If we have the sun, if we have the space to do solar plants, and we have already some investors in the country that are willing to do solar plants, let's improve our compliance and regulation as well to export to the EU or other nations. Because like I said, today was about more EU to take advantage of this Portuguese presidency, but there's other regulations that we can solve as well, like Russia or CIS markets, and as well China to continue improving that relationship and maintaining. But I would like to actually reinforce these needs that we have now these 4 or 5 months to do a little bit of common, I'd say a better word than the word lobby, to do a common advocacy, corporate diplomacy, the true passage from soft diplomacy to corporate diplomacy. This is now the moment. So let's do it, actually starting on Monday, the 15th.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, that's an invitation, Dr. Ines, and everybody's listening there should take an opportunity on this. I have quite a few other questions, and I'd like to leave the floor now to His Excellency Khamis Mubarak Al-Kiyumi. If you may, Your Excellency, your question or comment.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ines. Now already your Ines name is the most popular one, so we'll call you Ines. It was very, very, very useful session, very informative, and many points I took, but I would like only to address a few things. Number one, you said that we failed to maintain the middle investor, or partially failed, and some of them left. So we must have some kind of reason which make them unhappy and go to other place to invest. However, some of the reason could be acceptable or understood, and some of the reason could be, as you said, is driven by supplier motivation rather than investment motivation. Then you spoke very nicely with the main slogan that invite people to invest and export, which I totally agree with you 100%. This is the success of Singapore, this is the success of Hong Kong, Taiwan, Ireland. One day Irish used to say export or die. So I totally agree with you. Then I will address in this one, which is you say that come to invest and export. To invest, what kind of stability, investment, environment, and policy you think that we should handle? And also to export, what kind of investment, environment, and policies you think that we should focus? Because the stability of the policies and stability of the banking system in addressing the foreign investor and stability of labor policy, all are important to avoid frustration and to avoid leaving the place. So please help me in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Dr. Ines, would you like to respond?
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Khamis. Kumi, this is extremely, you touch the pain now. It's true. When we touch the pain, we have as well to address it. It's like, we have pain in the teeth, we go to the dentist. We have to address that as well. I have a list, I have a 10 points list actually, because I did by myself an interview for the majority of those stakeholders that left Oman. I was personally at the time a bit sad. I said, but guys, you don't want to make an extra effort. The main insecurity at the time that this happened was as well when His Majesty passed away. we have as well to see in context. Majesty passed away and came COVID. So when these things happen together for the country, and I congratulate this Oman because it's not easy. For the foreigners that do not know Oman, or the ones that are investment, at the same time that is really happen at the same time, we have as well to acknowledge that is not easy. Yeah? So we have to acknowledge that. Like I say, is that to go to the dentist with two teeth that are in pain. But the majority of the reasons why the people were not satisfied in Oman was the reason number one is the slowness of the trade, meaning banking. And this is an honest problem and is a real problem. So that means, for example, we close this weekend. I'm working the whole weekend because yesterday we are closing a big deal actually that will bring 96 million to Oman, US dollars. With Brazil, but the time zones, are crazy. So yesterday we needed to close some LCs. There's no bank open. There's you don't have this so-called 24 hours banking like other countries have. For example, I was working with the Brazilians. The Brazilians wake up. It was my midnight, so it doesn't matter. I was working. They needed someone to speak Portuguese. Okay, let's speak a bit Portuguese from Brazil accent, but I cannot solve anything until Sunday. Sunday in Brazil, people go to the church, they have other things to do that they don't want as well to deal with the matter. So sometimes what happened, the investors in general, they are expecting a faster country in some practical areas. And practical for business is finance, so banking, is time zone. So that means that we have someone willing to work sometimes on midnight, willing to sign a check, more practical reasons. This was one reason. Another one, like you just tackle as well, that they cannot bring their own teams from those international countries. For example, they cannot have a team on 100 employees that come, imagine, from Korea or from China or from Belgium. They have the percentage of Omanization that is going on. I have some comment for that. I believe that is the dream of any country, that the country is managed and is ruled by their own nation. This is completely normal. You're going to ask this to Portugal or to Belgium. Everyone has the majority of their population to be employed and to run in the countries. That's why the taxation is so high. So sometimes the people can criticize that, and I know the investors criticize that. But like you said, is a reason that in some aspects, I mean, you can counterface it. You can say, yes, you have a mandatory Omanization, but as well you have less taxes. So in this, this one we can overpass. I don't think that we can convince in actually a practical and real way. But the banking is really the #1 problem. If there's sometimes it's, for example, the Chinese, they answer, we don't have a Chinatown, we don't have a center that has a kind of a cultural interest for us. For example, like we just gave the example of Singapore. We don't have an Indian town, we don't have a Chinatown, we don't have a European town. So there's some of this type of more cultural areas. But for me, as you ask my opinion, the #1 problem for me is the banking system. Yeah, because the parity as well with the dollar and the United States, etc. So there's if we can, have banks that can work in the nights, or like it would be useful. Say for on behalf of the investors, if we can arrange that, I think half of our problems of Oman will be gone for the current problems in Oman.
Excellent. Well, if I may, I'll just try to, if His Excellency Dr. Khamis allows me, he has stressed on the stability of policies. Like Engineer Saleh had also mentioned that where is the private sector when there are promotions, when the country is making any promotion? So the question here is, from the experience from Portugal or from the European Union, how that is addressed, the stability of policies, or policies when they are how the private sector is involved in formulation of the policies that impacts the private sector. And likewise, when promoting the country, and as far as promoting the private sector, how does that also work? Is my question clear? Could you please just quickly shed light on that?
Yes, this is an excellent question. For example, just a brief example. In Brussels, I lived in Brussels all my life, all my life, adult life. In Brussels, you have 735 institutions that are just global associations that are like a chamber of commerce. And associations by sector, they serve only one purpose: is to or defend or protect or influence the government, or to explain to the government by sectors or by areas of governance. This is so-called corporate governance or public affairs. So the public affairs are not only institutions, because sometimes people do not like to talk about lobby or advocacy, but if you don't focus on these negative things of the word, but if you think what is really public affairs, is 100% the involvement of the private sector with the government for decision-making, for compliance, and for policies. For example, we have, imagine, the Association of Fisheries of Oman. We have the Association of Renewable Energy. We have the Association of Health Hospitals. So, for example, what does those associations, for example, in Brussels, they do something extremely useful. That is the research. So from the private sector, they do the research to show to the government through research. For example, if I was working in the Fisheries Association, the government, imagine His Excellency Dr. Said, asked to that association or to that chamber or to that network, do you mind to ask the team of experts in fisheries from both construction to export to import to technology of, I would like to have a whole report to take a better decision making. Imagine, then I will meet with His Excellency Minister of Fisheries, of Agriculture and Fisheries, and together we see what is appropriate for the country. Because sometimes what is very wrong in general in the world, is not now about Oman, is when we copy paste policies that come from experts or from consultants that do not know the reality of the countries. So I believe, and I think it's very good to decline the general policies to what is happening now in Oman, because we're talking about Oman, we're not talking about another country. So those associations or those networks or those public affairs, what they do is sometimes in the beginning we start just with one. Can be one good researcher that just do research about this area that explains to the government this is the status quo, that is missing for us to do. There is task force, and Oman has task forces, but Oman maybe do not have yet organized public affairs. We can say like that. Because this is all a bit new. In Brussels, how this works is very simple. It's like you have hearings. So it comes the Association, imagine, of Fisheries, they do this all research. They go, imagine, for the European Union, they say, this is what is our new findings for the European Union. For example, if now we go as Oman, okay, as I call the commissioner, I go from Oman and say, guys, I would like to show why Oman should sell to EU. Me, I can write this with my team, but I need the Omanis, I need the experts, I need the sectoral experts, I need the minister to go with me, or cannot be only the private sector. Has to be a true partnership, the sharaka. That needs to be a true combination and two voices that goes together. So a voice of the government together, private sector. And for example, in that day, imagine that I have this hearing, this opportunity. What will we do? We say, okay, we have here 20 fishery companies that come together as the supply for EU. Don't worry, because if you only deal with Oman fisheries, now it's a stake is a bit more dangerous, but other stakes are easier. But if you all go together and we do a kind of association to sell to the EU, we can comply, we can fulfill, we can sign that contract. As an example, So what I believe that Oman can get organized quite easy. Instead of putting like partnerships for everything that is general takes time to see the results. Like I saw here in the comment of Mr. Mahmoud Sahi, to improve the government, but as well, these things takes time. So we need to focus by the areas that can be faster or that are already regulated. So in a good way for exports. So this is my vision, is we go to say, okay, which sectors we'd like to start, mentioned by the government, the fisheries, the tourism, all the areas, the renewable energies, oil and gas, the maintenance. Can we sell or not, for example, gas or not? Gas maybe not, but just plastics not allowed. How can we do this? We start by 5, no, it's a nice hand, 5 sectors. We all together, combine these public affairs actions, and we say, but just for the export, if we want to export, of course, like Ms. Simon said. This is how we do it in Europe. It's how we do it in Europe.
Excellent. Well, since you mentioned Mr. Mahmoud Sakhi, I would like give him an opportunity to put his question across.
Yeah, and I have a small comment afterwards about that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mahmoud, can you please, if you are still with us?
Yes.
Yeah, please put your question across. I'm sorry, I was waiting for her to go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, I just wrote the question, but just elaborate on it.
Yeah,
I just want to know these big companies which Oman, gave them excellent, I think, investment opportunity here, like the major ports. I'm talking about the private sector now, the European, and in oil and gas. We don't see the downstream or the real contribution to the economy in improving. Let's say even in logistics, if you take the ports, when we discuss about exporting the fish or vegetables, we done now currently we added value to the supply chain of the fisheries, which is being now exported to Russia, which was one concern for the Omani exports. But we don't see these major ports which are given to European companies adding any value on this supply chain. Same thing in the oil and gas. We don't see any real economic contribution by them in terms of exporting real product in Oman or creating industries other than the raw material they're taking. So how you think that European private sector should be more contributing more valuable in the economic growth in Oman? And thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Doctor. Would you like Dr. Ines to elaborate on that question?
For me, it's simple. I agree with you, but at 300%, not even 100%. It was the beginning of this talk. While Oman start to create a brand to attract investors, just like this will never improve. They come here in a supply mentality. They don't come here to invest, to export. So for me, this is simple. It's just to create a policy or to create a national branding philosophy by the government and the private sector to say, guys, as everyone in the world, everyone says that the countries are the best in the world to invest. We just want one thing. We would like now partners to come here to help us to export. That's it. Because if they would just come here and to bring this and to put their companies here and so on, the people come in an idea to, I'm going to make money from our country. I don't want that mentality, because this is not true anymore. We all have to be competitive in the world. I know for this we go, if we just want to put the money and that's it, and wait that the supply chain works naturally, this is not the country to do that, Oman. This is not the country. It was not be, I don't believe this is the country. However, sometimes is a so-called wording in the investment attraction. And actually, I told that in the past to the Undersecretary of Investment, Dr. Asila, Her Excellency. I know her personally from many years. And I told, if we just develop general, attraction of investment, everyone will not be in the overall, as a result, very satisfied after 20 years. We have to really focus what we want Oman to become. What we want. If we want to be a hub of export where the industries comes, let's create this a hub. I mean, I have already 10 companies in line to come. But for this, of course, we need to give something. Does not mean that is the supply chain, but to say, no, we are not attracting you to try to sell us products to us. You know, because this is just a simple supplier investment. For example, if I came here for the first company I had, I came here as a supplier for the government. Okay, it was very nice worked, but since I start to know more Oman, I knew that would not be a country to be supplied to. Actually, it was opposite. It would be a country that I would supply others from. And this is what I believe. And it's maybe just a syntax, but it's very important one.
Okay, I think that answers Mahmoud's question or his query. I'd like to give the opportunity to Brigadier Haji Adam. Please, floor is yours, Haji.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, I have nothing. You know, she answered almost all the questions I had in mind.
Excellent.
And what I see that, you know, maybe we lack awareness in the whole process that we are talking about. Everybody talks about this problem and we don't know from where to start. So maybe we need to educate our private sector and the government on these opportunities. I mean, this is what we are lacking, I think. Everybody is struggling, everybody is fighting to do something, but we don't know from where to start. Thank you.
Excellent comments, sir. I think, yeah, I share your view on this. Have Elena, she would like to put a question through. Can I invite her to put the question?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Ines, for a fabulous presentation and this very, very interesting conversation and discussion that has ensued from the inspiration of what you have said. So thank you very much. I think these have been a couple of hours very well spent for many of us. So I would like to make more of a comment than to pose a question. And this is also in regard to the national branding philosophy that you're talking about. So if you look at around the world at other countries that have really engaged in national branding strategies, for example, in contexts that I know very well, Switzerland, Italy, Belgium, etc. In tandem with creating an international image of a very strong national brand, there's also been a very strong commitment to fostering that brand within the country. So one thing I've observed in Oman, which has been sad to observe, let's say, is that in many shops, for example, Omani brands, Omani products are not highlighted. You go to any supermarket, it is often very, very hard to find products that are made in Oman. And hence, you need to create, in my opinion, a culture of trust in Omani products to foster also that trust that would be perpetrated beyond the national borders. So I would love a comment from you, Dr. Ines, in this regard, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Dr. Ines, would you like to comment on what Elena pointed out to?
Elena, this is an excellent point. It's my pleasure to meet you as well. I'm going to say something not very diplomatic. So I advise before, you know, unfortunately, in life, sometimes nations only get credibility for their own brands, on that credibility comes from outside. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that that Oman can should be proud, of course, of their own brands, but sometimes Oman just, or any other country, this is not only Oman, but to just realize how important that brand, for example, Mazoon or other brand is, when we can prove case studies about that specific brand. So actually for me, this is even linked from the comment before. How can we start? What can we start? Where is the starting point? Because after all discussions on the last years about the brand of Oman and how can we position Oman, that's even Abdul Wahab was saying, for me, there's a very straightforward as well, like myself, I always think very straightforward way to do things. And as well, Brigadier Ablushi said, but how can we do it? You know how we can do it very easily. And I believe this is easy. And how to engage everyone is actually to package Oman, is to go really to bottom from north to south and to find everything, to do a true research work, to package everything as a strong brand of Oman that is being sold all over the world. You know, imagine I pick up my papers, I go there and I go to package that with then, like you said, a brand, a logo. This doesn't matter that. I mean, at the end of the day, we find a nice logo made in Oman, finished. We put a nice colors. At the end of the day, this is not what is going to be. Is always, as we say, the corporate culture, then only the image. It's what we are. Otherwise, like I said in the beginning, it's just a nail polish. We don't want nail polish. We want the same nail with a nice polish, which is something different. That I can take out my nail polish and I don't have today, and you can see that I have the same nail. This is what is important. For that, we have a good product in a good package. So for me, the way to start is to just do a research work. We go with the government, we talk with His Excellency Said or with any other government member, and we say, okay, let's find out all these and let's package this, a whole report of all the brands private sector that are selling outside, what is the quantities and so on, and to use through data, because this is data, through data. And the countries that are, the companies that are investing here, the nations that are really in partnership with Oman, like France, Germany, Spain, and now, inshallah, Portugal as well. The new honorary consul, Dr. Samir from Renaissance. So, I mean, when all this starts to move and we start to package that, I believe that we have a lot of starting points, a lot of good starting point already.
Excellent. Okay, well, I have Mr. Simon. Sorry, okay. I have Mr. Simon. He would like to comment. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah. Actually, I took my part, more than my part, but I've got two small remarks. Yeah. One, I would like to support Mahmoud Al-Sakhi entirely in what he's saying, not to blame only our partners, but to blame ourselves. However, let me give you some facts. We take the first partner that we have on these big ports, which is Port of Rotterdam. One would have thought that if we went to Sohar, we're going to see about 612 industries, Holland, Dutch industries that would export, where there is none. Then we go and forget, Dr. Ines, that you are Belgian, half Belgian. Think half Portuguese. We take our other partner in the south, in Dukum, the Antwerp partner, and the same thing applies. It's not only their fault. Maybe we should first sort out our relationship and talk about this vision of inviting, etc. That's first observation. So I support Mohammed entirely. The second observation, you talked about how things progress in the West, you know, where the government asks a specialist group like fishermen. Well, how do you see this dialogue in Oman is always, you know, I mean, we have one entity that represents us all, and that's the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Whether that structure is flexible enough under its present form, is flexible enough to engage every government authority with the private sector, I've got lots of doubts about that. Actually, many government authorities today, they go to professional societies such as Opal or Automobile Society. Maybe ourselves, Omanis, we have to relook at the forum at which the government and the private sector can meet and dialogue. Of course, it must be in the chamber, but in a different structure at the moment. This relationship is not there. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Excellent points. Again, I totally also agree with you and I agree with Mahmoud. But then again, we need to think, what is it we want in this relationship? As you've mentioned, we need to be very clear on this. We need to understand how the other things. If you allow me, I'll ask Mr. Khalil Al-Blushi to put his question across. Sorry, Khalil, for delaying you. I know you've been there for a while. Could you please put your question?
No worries. Shukran, Rashid. Thank you, Dr. Ines. I have very quick comment and probably a recommendation. You are the decision maker. You have pointed out that a few times, and you have only 4.5 months. Probably one of the things is to take into consideration are the companies who are existing here. We are very close to Europe for the last, I don't know, 100 years, 50 years at least. And there are so many companies from various countries in Europe who are here and they have invested and worked and they know it very well. Probably one practical step you can do is to meet with them and to take their input so they can pass it to the new investors who are either here and trying to leave or the new ones who are asking about Oman to come, the 10 in the waiting list that you have. So probably you talk to those who are existing here now and have been here for decades maybe and been successful. So they can hear it from the real experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalil. Dr. Ines, would you like to respond to Mr. Khalil's?
Yes, I agree with him 100% as well. It's what we have shared. For me, this is part of the packaging of Oman. I have already did that research, at least in, can say 45%. I'm still doing it. Of course, with this COVID, it took a little bit longer, but this is part, and I think it's exactly what we should continue doing, and is the point number one. Because, like we say, it's not only negative; it's actually the majority is positive. You know, you see someone that is here for many years as well, like myself. So I think this is the way of packaging Oman. To say, okay, this is positive, this is what we have always to face, but always there's no country in the world that can offer a so-called the perfection of investment. Important is to see the reasons why people would invest in Oman as well. If it is for supply to Oman, okay, maybe we'll wait for a couple of years more. If it is to invest in Oman to supply us from Oman, maybe it's the right moment.
Excellent. Well, we have run out of time, unfortunately. It's been a very interesting session, very enlightening. Reham, is there anybody else there that I haven't seen a name asking? We put a final question, or are we done with the questions, Reham?
I think we have covered most of the questions. Mr. Maqbool Al-Saleh is with us. Would you like to ask any question, Mr. Maqbool?
No, thank you. I just want to comment. Really interesting questions and answers. The tragedy with Oman is the private sector is in a ravine and the public sector is in a ravine. They don't talk to each other. This is where we are lost. Thank you.
Good comment, Your Excellency. I'm not going to agree or disagree with you, but it's obvious there is a miscommunique, or the coordination apparently is not as good as it should be, and it's been mentioned a few times. I'll leave to Simon to make his final comment, and then we close, if you don't mind. Please go ahead, Simon. As usual,
No, I don't have a
you
comment.
normally wrap up. I know you summarize everything. So
yeah, I think I did it a little bit earlier on. You know.
Okay.
Where Dr. Ines brought some new things for us to think about protecting those who invest in the country, and encourage them to invest in products that we could export, on highlighting the fact we are to use our soft diplomacy. We are the good boy. But then a boy who keeps silent, that's not good. We have to talk more with our partners and see how we can change that. She gave very practical advices about not aiming day one at the Cosmos, aim at under a global vision, but aim at specific things and go for a specific project, but deal with them, follow them up until they realize something. She definitely insisted on increasing and augmenting our external relationship, find more international. You see, I like somebody in Majlis Al Khonji said, foreign investors do not necessarily look for the profit only. Foreign investment goes where it is welcome. So here we have to think ourselves, if we are welcoming the real, the investors, it's all what Dr. Ines brought to us. It's all material for thinking and acting. And the presence of His Excellency Dr. Saeed Al-Sakri enriched the discussion. And I wish Her Excellency Samsamia was with us, and and many government authorities, because the subject we discussed cover everybody. A final thing, when I pointed out that I want to say something, I wanted to ask you, Dr. Abdullah, in which ravine are you in? Maqbool Hamid said, His Excellency Maqbool, he said,
well, yeah,
are you on the left or on the right? You're in the middle. In Majlis Al Khonji, we're in the middle.
You're right. I mean, look, we could be much better in synchronizing, if you like. We know government is very serious, and government would like things to be done in the best way possible. However, there is more synchronization that needs to be done. I don't know whether the Chamber of Commerce is involved to which degree before policies are being formulated. And so I'll leave it to those who know better than me and who's more informed to look into these questions. And I'm sure things can always be better. With that, I will ask Dr. Ines if she has anything more to say. And on your behalf, all, I would like to thank her very much for a very informative presentation, discussion. And I also would like to ask all those who are still with us right now to think of communicating with her directly. She is giving us that opportunity to go to her. She is involved in the next 4.5 months at least in making things happen. If there is any windows that can be opened or can be approached or developed. So with that, I would leave the final words to you, Dr. Ines, and I thank everybody on your behalf. Please, Dr. Ines, your closing remark.
Yes, thank you so much for actually, it was my pleasure to see some of my colleagues here in Oman again. It's my pleasure, really. In this part, I always get a bit emotional because I think it's nice, all this COVID. I don't even imagine with all guys you lived as well with your businesses and with your policies. And it's not easy moment for all of us. So I'm very happy to see you. Second point, like I shared already, I'm here. I'm here for you. Anything, I sent you as well my email and my phone here in Oman. And in terms of Chamber of Commerce, just the last one about this. I think if we already have the structure, the thing we can do is to reinforce it, to rethink what to be that Chamber of Commerce as a final product of what we already have. Because and now I say as a foreigner, I'm going to say something as a foreigner, not like someone that loves Oman. As a foreigner, what I feel is a bit weak in Oman is that sometimes we create so many things new, is linked again to the preserving the people that are here. So we create all things new to do better. It's let's create someone, let's bring another consultant. And we forget to reinforce what is already good. So maybe the chamber is not perfect, but instead of actually always expending more funds and more resources to create something new, why we don't reinforce Chamber of Commerce? Let's put it how we wanted it to become, a true responsible for the private sector in communicating with the government that would communicate externally. This is my last comment, and I am thankful.
And I totally agree with you on this, because why reinvent the wheel? We have a body that's supposed to do what you have just mentioned. And I'm all for supporting it, improving it, getting it more engaged. I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate your excellent presentation. I thank you very much for being patient to all these questions, and welcoming also any further queries or cooperation. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much. Wish you a pleasant day, and thank you for everyone who stayed with us and those who have left us earlier. All wish you a good day. مع السلامة.
شكرا.